Hello there, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, recreation in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. Brought to you by Bridget Morrissey, the producer. I'm Will Morrissey, I'll be your host for the show, and we'd like to let you know what's happening in the area. So many people are moving into the area, whether they're building submarines or they're the brave souls that drive the submarines. We've got students at Mitchell College, UConn at Avery Point, Connecticut College, and all the cadets over at the Coast Guard Academy. Plus all the people that come to visit the area. There's so many people coming in. 2023, Mystic was rated the 4th best travel destination in all the United States. There's so many things to do and not everybody knows all about them. So Bridget is a realtor that races up and down the coast from Old Lyme to Charlestown. She zigzags from Mystic to Mashantucket up to Uncasville, and she knows all the attractions in the area. Again, I'm Will Morrissey, glad to have you aboard. And we like to tell you all about these different things that are happening in the area. And today we're going to be at historic Stonington, formerly Stonington Historical Society. And we got Chelsea Mitchell with us today. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, great to have you here. How did you get involved with the Historical Society?
So I started there about 7 years ago, and I was previously working at the Redwood Library and Athenaeum in Newport. So I was very interested in special collections and history in general. So this seemed like a very good fit for me.
Yeah, it sure is. There's a lot of things going on over there. I've been over there, met you when you were helping out with Stonington Little League and other different things that you do around town. But going inside and seeing, these portraits of people from the 17th, 18th century, seeing the ship that Palmer sailed, a replica of the ship that Palmer sailed on when he went down and discovered Antarctica, all kinds of different things going in history. And we've got a little video about the Palmer House in the Woolworth Research Center. How about if we run that video?
Step into the lives of two sea captains, their families, and ancestors when you pass through the grand front entrance of the Captain Nathaniel B. Palmer House. There, you will want to rush to the top floor and observe Stonington Harbor from our magnificent cupola. But there is much to discover within the lower floors of the museum. You can take a close look at the model of Palmer's sloop Hero and imagine him discovering the Antarctic Peninsula at age 21 on his modest 47-foot sailboat. Numerous other model ships are on display, as well as dollhouses and period textiles. Throughout the house, you will find evidence of the Palmer family's involvement in shipbuilding, international trade, and family life in the mid-19th century and beyond. Plus, new exhibits on topics of local historic interest are featured at both the Palmer House and the Woolworth Research Library next door. This 14-room Victorian mansion was built in 1852 by two brothers, Captains Nathaniel Brown Palmer and Alexander Smith Palmer. Majestically sited, overlooking the upper end of Stonington Harbor, Pine Point offers sweeping water views in all directions. From its octagonal cupola, the family could identify ships arriving from distant ports. The grounds and gardens are the perfect place to relax and enjoy a picnic lunch during your visit. The natural beauty of this place is enriched by the stories shared in the house. Once threatened by demolition, this magnificent home was purchased by Historic Stonington, formerly the Stonington Historical Society, in 1994 and is now preserved as a National Historic Landmark. Memorabilia about Nathaniel's discovery of Antarctica and the Palmer brothers' adventurous lives is on display, as are family portraits, furnishings, and artifacts. The Woolworth Library is a community research staple. We welcome and assist curious residents and friends from all walks of life with their questions and research. Volunteer opportunities are offered for those passionate about the humanities or looking to get involved and make an impact in their community. The Woolworth Library's main collections focus on Stonington's history and its people, with a secondary focus on the surrounding areas of North Stonington, New London, Southern Rhode Island, and Southeast Connecticut. The collections include over 60 linear feet of manuscript files, books on the history and people of the area, including genealogies, local and county histories, ledgers and account books, city directories, war records, and copies of the land and probate record books. The Woolworth Library also holds an extensive collection of historical photographs of the area, supplied by generous donations from two former Stonington residents. Raleigh McKenna, born in 1918 and died in 2003, and Maurice LaGrua, born in 1915 and died in 2005, celebrated local photographers, donated many of their images to the Woolworth Library, creating a visual record of Stonington from the 1940s to the 1980s. Year-round hours are Mondays 1 to 5, Wednesdays 9 to 5, and Fridays 1 to 4. Historic Stonington, preserving, sharing, inspiring. Go to historicstonington.org for more information.
Now, they mentioned that a lot of people like to go to the Palmer House and race upstairs to the cupola.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure it's a nice view up there and everything, but what else entails the rest of the house?
It's a beautiful house. I know I'm a little biased because I work there, but so the house was finished in 1852 and was originally built for two brothers to be living there together with their combined families. Nathaniel Brown Palmer and his wife had no children, so they were kind of surrogate parents. But there's plenty to see in the house. There's not many original furnishings because in 1976, when the original family moved out of the house, there was a large auction, and they sold off basically everything inside the house, some even in lot boxes. So there aren't many original furnishings to the house, but using our historic photograph collection, we have refurnished the inside as closely as we can with period-appropriate furniture. In addition to the cupola and some other really interesting architectural features in the design of the house, there are also a great number of really beautiful artworks on display. Family portraits, but also portraits of other early Stonington residents, many of which are names we recognize today: Denison, Lord, Stanton, Palmer, Wilcox, Minor, those sorts of names.
You also mentioned the photography. We had Dan Brandel on earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
From the LaGrua Center.
Yes.
And so we did a little history of the LaGruas, and Morris LaGrua was one of the first soldiers to storm Normandy Beach.
Yes.
On D-Day.
Yes.
And had two Purple Hearts, but was an amazing photographer. And so I guess Stonington is pleased that they have a record of, what was it, the 1940s to the 1980s that he was taking pictures, and same thing with Raleigh? Yeah,
so Raleigh is a little bit later. She arrives in Stonington kind of the mid-50s, so most of her photographic work is from the 1960s and 70s. She is a really major photographer in 20th century art culture. She is the one who, if you've ever looked at a book jacket cover photo of really famous 20th century authors, it's most likely Rowley who took that photograph. And we are actually one of the largest repositories of her work in the country now, second only to the Center for Creative Photography in Arizona, as well as the Yale Portrait Gallery.
Well, moving next door, I mean, that's great to hear about the Palmer House, but the Research Center, where you spend most of your time,
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So the building was constructed in 1998. It is named the Woolworth Library after Richard W. Woolworth. It is the Woolworth name, like the five and dime store, though not a direct lineage. And it was specifically built to be a climate-controlled area where we could store our archives and objects that are not on display in our museums. So part of my role there as library director, I am also collections manager. So any photograph, any letter, any diary, dresses, bedspreads, things like that, anything that is in our collection lives within my building, and then we decide what gets put on display and write the exhibits based on that.
Well, you must have a lot of sailors that are interested in what's going on in Stonington and the history of Stonington sailing.
Certainly. I know very little about that personally. I know a little bit more about steamships and the railroad when Stonington becomes a transportation hub, but there's plenty of information in the archives about that. Even, the development of the J-boat by Oh, now I'm blanking on his name, but I'll think of it later. But plenty in the archives there, lots of photographs of sailboats throughout the 19th and 20th centuries.
Well, talking about sailboats, sometimes they need a lighthouse to find out where they're going at night.
Yes.
And you have the Lighthouse Museum right down the road in the borough. Well, you're in the borough to begin with, but right down by the point.
Yes, and we are actually the first, we acquired the lighthouse in 1925 and it opened as a museum in 1926. It's actually the first museum in a lighthouse in the United States, which is kind of a fun superlative.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've got a little video that will take us there.
Great.
For more than 170 years, this modest stone citadel, a lighthouse tower attached to a dwelling, has stood at the entrance to the harbor of Stonington, Connecticut's only port facing on the Atlantic. Now regarded fondly as a durable symbol of a seafaring past. In its working years, it performed the valuable service of guiding ships across treacherous Fisher's Island Sound. The building is notable among lighthouses of its period for its fanciful stonework, with ornamental cornices around the tower and weighty granite lintels above doorways and windows. When it was built in 1840, it had a nearly flat roof with simulated battlements, but it leaked so badly that 2 years later, local craftsmen were called in to install the gabled roof it has today. The lighthouse remained in use from its construction in 1840, when it replaced an earlier lighthouse, until 1889, when it was supplanted by beacons on the harbor breakwaters. It had been a dank home to 7 keepers and their families, and until 1909, it continued to house the keepers who tended the breakwater lights. After a new keeper's house was built next door, the lighthouse was deserted until the United States government decided to sell it, and in 1925, historic Stonington, formerly the Stonington Historical Society, was able to acquire it for $3,650. In 1927, it opened as a lighthouse museum, the nation's first. Except for most of World War II, the museum has been open every year. Since 1962, it has been open 6 months a year and attracts thousands of visitors. Historic Stonington bought the lighthouse to exhibit the artifacts it had acquired since its founding in 1895. This collection, augmented over the years, reflects Stonington's maritime and agricultural history, sailors, farmers, sea captains, explorers, and entrepreneurs. Many artifacts predating the lighthouse document the defense of Stonington when the British attacked in 1814, for example. A cannonball lodged in a hearthstone from a house on Water Street, and a rare Congreve rocket fired on the village by the Royal Navy. There is locally made stoneware, items from China brought back by Stonington sea captains, and portraits of local figures from the 18th and 19th centuries. Climb the 29 circular steps and a short ladder to reach the top of the tower for breathtaking views that sweep across Long Island Sound, overlooking 3 states. Enjoy a picnic on the grassy lighthouse grounds, which face across Little Narragansett Bay toward Watch Hill and Napatri Point in Rhode Island. The grounds also play host to special events such as the annual gala dinner dance, concerts, holiday celebrations, and private weddings. The perennial borders are maintained by the Stonington Garden Club. Historic Stonington, preserving, sharing, inspiring. For more information, go to historicstonington.org.
Well, that's a good place to go visit if you're coming into Stonington. It's got to be high on a lot of people's visitor list.
Oh, certainly. We have a passport program there, and many people will come in with their passport books, lighthouse passports, and we have a stamp specific to the Stonington Lighthouse. So if that's something that you're interested in or that you do, make sure you come and visit us. The guides are always happy to fill out those passport books for you.
Now, if you're just passing by, are you allowed to go on the grounds to have a picnic?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, do you have to pay to be, go into the museum? Or?
So if you live within the town of Stonington, so that is Stonington, the east side of Mystic, and Pawcatuck, you have free admission to our museums whenever you would like to come. For everyone else who lives outside of those 3 zip codes, it's $10, and that $10 gets you into both of our sites. So it's $5 to visit the Lighthouse Museum and the Palmer House.
Oh, okay. it's said that all kinds of events take place there, picnics and everything, but it also talks about a gala, and we've got another little video to talk about what happens at your yearly cannonball.
Oh yes, please. The Cannonball is an excellent fundraiser. Sometimes it's hosted at the Lighthouse Museum. Sometimes we try to change the location just to keep interest and to showcase our beautiful town. There's more than just the Lighthouse Museum. So this past year, we hosted our annual gala on the grounds of the Captain Palmer House, and it was called Voyage on the Hooqua.
Now, do you change the topic every year?
We do.
Voyage on the Hooqua was pretty interesting. We've got a video on that. Let's take a look.
In 2024, historic Stonington held the 25th Cannonball to celebrate the voyage of the Hooqua. Abiel Abbott Lowe was an American entrepreneur, businessman, trader, and philanthropist who gained most of his fortune from the China trade, importing teas, porcelains, and silk, and building and operating a fleet of reputable clipper ships. In 1840, he launched his own business in a joint venture with Wu Bingjian, also known as Hooqua, a mentor for young Americans in China, a very important Hong merchant, head of the Canton Kohong, and one of the richest men in China. The company, A.A. Lowe and Brothers, named for both him and his brother, Josiah Orne Lowe, rapidly became one of the leading China and Japan silks and teas trading companies. Their original offices are now home to the South Street Seaport Museum in New York City. In 1843, William Lowe and his pregnant wife, Anne, traveled back to the United States from China on board the ship, Paul Jones. During the journey, Captain Nathaniel B. Palmer, who was born in Stonington in 1799, was also on board. Palmer had spent more than 30 years at sea and was the first American to sight the continent of Antarctica in 1820. Frustrated with the slow pace of the Paul Jones, Captain Nat started carving a block of wood to create a model of his ideal hull design for a trading ship. When they arrived in New York, Nat brought the design to A.A. Lowe and Brothers. When completed in 1844, it was the fastest clipper ship in the world, condensing a 6-month voyage into just 100 days. The ship was named Hooqua, after the powerful Hong merchant who had died the year before the ship was launched. The voyage of the Hooqua propelled Captain Nat and other Stonington captains deep into the lucrative China trade. Their innovative new designs helped create a global economy with America in the lead and effectively changed the course of history. Fortunes were made importing tea, opium, spices, and silk. Some of it was used to build Pine Point, the Palmer family home, in 1851. Historic Stonington celebrates the ingenuity of Captain Palmer, explores trade routes and ports of call, and dives into the shipboard experiences of the men and women who traveled these routes. To learn more, go to historicstonington.org.
That is pretty interesting. Now, I didn't know Pine Point School was probably named for the same reason that the house was named.
Yes, it was originally right around the corner from where the Palmer House stands now before it moved on to its current location.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. But that's amazing history that somebody that was born in Stonington in 1799 not only goes and discovers Antarctica, but goes to China and gets to meet these very wealthy merchants and design ships that changed the way shipping was done.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people come to the Palmer House expecting the Antarctica story, but it's really only a small part of Captain Nathaniel Brown Palmer's life. He really is, his largest contribution, I would say, is his ship design. The Hooqua was the fastest ship when it was built. As your video had mentioned, it condensed a 6-month trip into just 100 days, which is incredible for the time, considering you're using only sail power. And I think it also speaks volumes about the knowledge and experience that Captain Nat had at that time, by that time in his life, to be able to know the ocean so well and know the trade routes and know how to command a ship like that and get the best out of your crew. So we really work to educate people on his, or visitors to the Palmer House, to the other accomplishments that he had in his life, many of which people don't know about.
Well, it's nice to learn all of this about a particular captain, but there were other captains in the area. You know, Stonington really attracted fishing. We've got the last fishing fleet in Connecticut, and it's the only port facing the Atlantic Ocean from the state of Connecticut.
Yes, and it's had a significant impact in the development of the nation. When I go to the local high schools or middle schools and talk to the kids there, I like to reiterate to them that any national historical event that you can think of happened on some small level here, right in your own backyard in southeastern Connecticut, whether that is the American Revolution or women's suffrage or tax protest. I mean, really anything can really run the gamut here. It happened here on the ground.
That's amazing what the area has produced, and people just don't know that, you know. But that's the reason for a museum.
That's right. That's the reason for my position at Historic Stonington. I love to share what I know, and I think passion is contagious.
Well, the Cannonball is a big fundraiser for you. But you do other fundraisers throughout the year. We'll get into Deck the Walls in just a little bit. But
sure.
If somebody is interested in joining, or for membership, or if they're looking to donate and, you know, to help support you, where would they go?
You could come in and see me if you like that. You could speak to anyone on our staff. But the best place to do it is probably on our website at historicstonington.org. And right on the landing page, you'll see all sorts of information. There's a calendar that will show you our upcoming events. There's a tab where you could apply to volunteer with us. There are plenty of ways to get involved, even if it's not, you know, you can't commit to volunteering every day or once a week and you just want to come work one event with us. We'd love to have you come and help with that. All of our membership information is also up on our website, as well as occasionally we also do, we have an app that helps us to promote other kind of walkable exhibits, as I like to call them. So we write articles and install small exhibits kind of around town that you can access through your phone.
Well, you help out the local schools too.
We do, yes. We have the local high school, Stonington Public High School, offers an elective called the Stonington History class, which is all about basically looking at history through the lens of our town. So I go in, it's a series of guest speakers who go and speak on various subjects, kind of experts in their field on local history. So I go in, and in the high school class, I talk about immigration and industry. So the establishment of mills in Stonington and the large waves of immigrants who came to staff those mills.
Well, you mentioned before the show started that you have this program where you can tell people the history of a house if it's over 50 years old.
Yes.
And the genealogy of the owners?
Yes. So we do what's called a house history program. So if your house is more than 50 years old and you live within the limits of the town of Stonington, you can come to the Woolworth Library and you can commission us to do a full house history for you. So that is a full chain of title on your property as far back as we can follow it. And then using that chain of title, we write small biographies based off of what we can find in our archives of the people who've lived in your home. So you also get a sort of social history of the people who've lived there. That also comes with a plaque that goes on the front of your house, if that's where you'd like to put it, that has the original builders or original occupants' name, the year the house was constructed, and their occupation.
That is amazing. People in Stonington are probably pretty pleased to find out that information. You keep talking about all these different programs that you put together, but it takes donations. It takes something to do. We have something coming up very soon called Deck the Walls. Let's run that video.
So Deck the Walls is our annual holiday fundraiser. This is our 17th year in a row, and we partner every year with the Stonington Garden Club to present this event. They are a wonderful community partner. So we start this event off every year with a preview party. It's the only thing that you would have to buy a ticket to for this event, and it's just because it gives you first pass at buying wreaths before they go up for auction. So that happens on the Thursday evening before Deck the Walls kind of kicks off on Friday and Saturday. The preview party is really fun too. It's one of my favorite events of the year. Everyone is always in a good mood. The house is decorated for Christmas. The Christmas tree always looks beautiful in front of the front window. I would highly recommend coming to the preview party. So Friday and Saturday, the 6th and 7th, you can come to the Palmer House. There is no charge that day, those 2 days. You can come and see the wreaths in person. Our auction happens online. And you can come in and see how the house looks, but you can also enjoy tours if you would like to. Our docents will be available to guide you through the house and talk to you about Captain Nat. So our auction takes place online, as I said, on the GiveSmart platform. There is a link to that right on our homepage right now. So if you were to go looking, of course the auction's not up yet, but it ends at 4 o'clock on Saturday. So then you can come either Saturday or Sunday afternoon and pick those wreaths up if you are a winner.
Well, that ought to be a fun weekend.
It's a great time. Like I said, I'm not lying when I say it's probably my favorite fundraiser of the year.
Yeah, well, it gets people in the mood for the holidays, that's for sure.
Certainly. And I mean, there's nothing better than walking into a historic house and smelling all the pine. I mean, the wreaths we sell are all real pine, so they're lovely.
Now, we mentioned a couple of different things that go on throughout the year. Did we miss anything? Is there some special thing? I heard something about a little tour, a 1-hour tour of the area of Stonington Borough.
Yeah, so we offer a variety of walking tours, which you can reach out and schedule right through our website. You can reach out to Aaron Lord. He is our museum manager. So if you and your friends, have a particular interest, for example, we had a group this past summer who were really interested in the Battle of Stonington, War of 1812, and we designed a walking tour for them and their group. So there's plenty. We're very much a community-facing organization. We want to serve the community. We want people to be involved and excited about what we do and sharing our history. So if you have any questions or you're wondering if something is possible, please reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
Well, about the same time, it's Thanksgiving weekend. The Chamber of Commerce has a big weekend. We've got an image I want to show you of Santa Claus arrives by tugboat. We've got the Christmas tree lighting. We've got the lighted boats parade. All that's coming up on November 30th, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, Chelsea, I mean, it's great that you were able to come in and tell us all about all the different things that are happening at the Palmer House and at the Lighthouse Museum. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to do it.
We're looking forward down the road. We've got a couple different shows lined up. One of them is going to be with the Waterford Public Library. We've done a couple different libraries, a couple different museums, and it's nice to know all the different programs that are happening. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next show. Bridget, please take us out.